ready to head off the trails. I'm the Cryptid Huntress, Jessica Jones, and I'm ready to take y'all on a mysterious journey right now. We welcome you to Off the Trails right here on Spaced Out Radio's YouTube channel. If you haven't hit subscribe yet, please do, because we would really appreciate the love. And shout out to Bumblefoot for that amazing intro music. We so appreciate that. All right, follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. You can find me at thecryptidhuntress.com, and please subscribe to my YouTube channel, The Cryptid Huntress. Also, you guys, please go support my shop, War Woman Goods, for the best in vintage Native American turquoise and jewelry and other goods. All right. I have a fantastic guest here tonight, as usual. I have Barry Littleton backstage. All right. Don't forget that right after the show, After Hours has a great program set up for y'all tonight. So let's get to our guest. Barry Littleton was born awake with fragmented past life memories. He began having paranormal experiences at a young age. These experiences included telepathic awareness, seeing or feeling ghosts, and various inorganic beings. These encounters and some of the entities themselves had a distinct extraterrestrial origin that led him into a lifetime of research and exploration into the metaphysical and paranormal fields. And as most of you know, he is a frequent guest on my show and also a co-host. And for you guys who follow me on my remote viewing show, he was my co-host this past Friday. So please help me welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight, Mr. Barry Littleton. Hey, Barry.
Greetings, salutations. How you doing, Jessica?
Hey.
Thank you for having me on again. I'm honored to be here, and want to give a thank you to your audience. I've received since Friday overwhelming amount of positive responses, a few subscribers on YouTube and some other things. So thank you very much.
Yes. Well, heck yeah. We love you, Barry. And I couldn't do it without you. I love having you on as a guest and a co-host. And I think we make a pretty good team, to be honest.
Yeah. I appreciate that. Thank you. It's been an honor. I wasn't sure how many more like shows or interviews I would do anymore, but you've got such a good vibe that I'm very cool with it. So
well, thank you. So I drug you back in, huh? Is that what happened?
Yeah, pull me back into the fire.
I did. Well, I'm glad you're here because we're in the fire together, especially tonight. And, you know, I did a show a couple of weeks ago on with my remote viewing show, and it was about unspecified animal attacks. And I was looking into recent cases within the past year of people who had been attacked and mauled to death by what some said were packs of wild dogs. They were classified as packs of wild dogs or unspecified animals. And I had two cases. And here's the thing: I don't really like doing cases that are recent because they're so sensitive and it's kind of fresh. And so I don't like upsetting or the families involved and things like that. But with these things, we're seeing a lot of attacks where people are being attacked. And it's a little suspicious by packs of wild dogs all over this country and even in Scotland. Someone sent me a case from over there that was recent. So I looked into it, and after I remote viewed them, I found one was a mountain lion or a cougar out in Texas. And the other one, there were two people who were killed on different occasions, mauled to death, basically. And my data suggested it was one large animal. It was not a pack of wild dogs. And I had to go on air and talk about my data. And it was really odd, Barry. My data suggested it was something like a bear, but it wasn't a bear. And I kept hearing when I was remote viewing it, zombie bear. And I was like, oh man, this is tough, and so, we went through it. We thought, well, maybe it could have been some sort of a dog man. Maybe it was some sort of a mutated Sasquatch or something. But after the show, you sent me some information about I believe it's called the Dewey Lake monster. Okay. And it sparked a discussion between us about how there are so many different species of cryptids and Sasquatch that we don't even really know about. And there's a lot of variations that may not even be classified yet. So I thought maybe we could do a show about that tonight. So that's what we're going to be talking about this evening. And you have done some amazing videos on your YouTube channel. For anyone who has not subscribed to Barry's YouTube channel, go to Barry Littleton on YouTube and please subscribe and go to his Patreon as well, everybody. Okay. So yes. But Barry, I was really taken back by the Dewey Lake monster because it really did have a lot of similarities with what I saw was attack these people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's interesting about one thing is two things. I'll just tab on two if I can real quick. Unless you were done, you talk going. Otherwise, I'll chime in.
No, let's dig in.
You sure? I do not want to interrupt.
No,
Okay.
You're not interrupting.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you. Well,
the
packs of dogs attacking people. I find that very interesting in terms of in the 80s. I use often Spirit. Sometimes we use movies as a frame of reference for me. And a frame of reference movie that comes in with this is a early 80s movie called Wolfen. Do you remember that movie?
I do, yes.
Mm-hmm. You remember the wolves were attacking people in the inner city, and it's more the spirit of the wolf. And that takes us into what several tribes have called the Wahila, which is a very giant wolf that has often been, it's been described, or I read both ways, both aggressive and also passive and spiritual, but nonetheless, it's this huge wolf that's, the size of a man. So that's just one of these cryptid that kind of comes in with that I think is very prevalent. Now, skipping over to your zombie bear. Yeah, I found that fascinating. And I initially did correlate that with the Dewey monster, it was Michigan Dewey monster. That's why I kind of sent a thing to Rob about that too. That's his neck of the woods.
That's right. Yeah, I'm gonna put a picture of it up on the screen right now so people can get an idea of what we're going to be talking about.
The reports of that thing varied from being a Bigfoot thing to more a description like that. And several natives there were calling it the whistling bear, and said also implying that, when we hear that there were others too, that may not have been the only one, which is interesting because when we go into this kind of mutant species of Sasquatch, dogman, whatever it is, they're being reported as hunting in packs lately. I've been hearing that more.
I've heard that too, actually. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So when it comes to this, this species here, what is this? You've used the word chimera before, right?
Yes, it comes up very often. Yes.
Fascinating. I think that's something. At what point do we have a lot of these creatures that are either coming from other dimensions or have been here historically on Earth, and then we've got people that are starting to bioengineering them, back engineering and splicing them. Like I mentioned Friday, the Island of Dr. Moreau, another movie. I think that's somewhat maybe accurate when we start dealing with some of these underground facilities and these places that are producing these hybrids, these creatures that just jump into our perception, then jump out, and then get kind of just categorized as folklore and as legend and urban legend. It's a shame, but there's a reality there. All these different beings that are popping up, the frog man, all the Congo dinosaurs have always interested me. You've got the kappa, the water creatures, the rake monsters, the Spring Heel Jack that jumps in and jumps out of people's awareness. And Spring Heel Jack has kind of got some things similar to like how the chupacabra jumps in and out. It's, these beings, and when I say that, they jump into our field of perception, and then these beings jump away or fly away. The Mothman does that.
The Mothman. We just did the show on Friday about the Mothman. That was such a great show, Barry. Thank you for joining me that night.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah, we got great feedback from that. So if y'all missed that show, please go to my YouTube channel and check that out. My remote viewing investigation of the Mothman. Okay, because that was actually really interesting. I was picking up that the Mothman was a messenger of God. Okay. And some very interesting data came out of that show. So but it's one of those that did jump into the reality and then back out. It was gone within a year. It was never really seen it. Well, I say it was never seen again. However, there were creatures like it spotted all over the world right before a catastrophe struck.
And especially that takes us into, again, that's cool you say that. That takes us back to what we're talking about anyway, this mutant Sasquatch species point. That, that bat squatch thing that I said, I did a video. When I did that video about that, I kept laughing. It's the name. It sounds ridiculous, but it is what it is. People replying, saying that that's a type of Mothman And my understanding from John's data that he collected was that it was a different species of Mothman that has a Sasquatch type of look, but still the same red eyes and the wings without hair.
Yeah. Similar to the Mothman.
Without feathers, I'm sorry. More skin. Yeah.
It was almost like a pterosaur or something, which we've been having pterosaur sightings all over the United States and all over North America for several years now.
You know, I've always been fascinated with that, and with the giant birds, especially because you have the teratorns, then you have Argentavis, which were not flight birds, but the teratorns were, and they've been reported for a long time being seen. More birds of prey, to speak. And then you've got also things that are saying like that in the Uranta book. They say that some of the beings that were like more celestial, more extraterrestrial in origin, were flying on these huge birds that they called fandors.
Wow.
And then if you take, what's interesting about that? If you take that and what they say in that book, they give you a date of when these people, the Nodites and others, went to that area. And then when you look at something like that area where Göbekli Tepe is, that they mentioned that area, and you see some of the relics they pulled out of there. One of them is the headless guy riding this huge bird. Look that up. Yeah. I think that implies kind of what we're seeing there being represented in hieroglyphs and things like that. So that's important, Anyway, but that's why I have such an interest in that, because you've also got that going into what you were doing, the Petrosaurus and things
pterosaurs,
that are more dinosaurs, pterodactyls and things of that nature that are more dinosaur-like. But now we know science is proving that most of the dinosaurs had feathers.
Wow.
You know that.
Right? I've heard that. Yes, I've heard that. Yeah, but it was like even with the Mothman, I was detecting that it was more of a smooth type of wing. It didn't have feathers on it. It was like I literally wrote pterodactyl wings, like that type of a skin on it. So I thought that was really interesting. There's such a weird mix of all these different cryptids that are,
Well, when you look at actually bats themselves, everybody thinks that they're rodents, but the truth is the closest relative of the bat is the camel. They're very closely related genetically, the camel and the bat.
A camel.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So, because it looks me as a bat always looks like a rat with hands, with webbed hands, but
it totally does.
There's something different. Yeah, so I don't know what that does to Bruce Wayne. Sorry, Joe. Excuse me. Anyway, kind of maybe going back to going back to the mutant Sasquatch thing and kind of the zombie bear, taking that a step forward in what we were talking about, these mutant Sasquatch species. And that takes us into what I think Duke Sullivan and all these other people are calling face eaters and gugwi and Janoskas. I get nervous talking about this. The Bigfoot community is brutal. Oh my goodness.
Hey, I'm part of the Bigfoot community. You're safe.
I mean, much respect to all, but it's like, man, I don't want to misquote something. I'll get brutalized.
It's okay. I'm here. We're fine.
But seriously, but when looking at these Janoskas and these Gugwis especially, they're supposed to be what they're calling type 3B Bigfoots, which are the ones that have the muzzles. Yeah. They've got that one, the type 3 there. And what's interesting? If you look at the Dogman chart, that's also a type 3 variant 3 Dogman that has the muzzle as well. Yeah. And what I had heard, the first time I heard about this mutant species, it was from who I enjoyed talking with so much, Tom Powell, who had said things that were so fascinating, but he had mentioned that at the habituation in Texas, whether that's Paris, Texas, or wherever, and in that area, and in Oklahoma, that the type 1 Sasquatch were being pushed out by these monsters.
We'll pull that up, because type 1 would be like a patty type.
Yeah, and they're the ones that are doing gifting with people. They may be a little territorial, but not as bad. They're more the ones that seem to interact with humans and be more shy in that way. And I think when most people think of Sasquatch or Bigfoot, they think of type 1, because that's the video and everything. But I heard that, and then after Tom had mentioned this to me, I started hearing this more. about these gugwe types, these aggressive types, pushing the more passive type ones out.
Yeah.
Okay, and they're always described as having this muzzle, like the thing from Seven Shoots, but these muzzles, but having the body of Sasquatch in terms that their legs are not dogman-like, but their faces and muzzle make them appear that way. And mostly important, what I heard about, in reports was that they don't have ears. They don't have the ears of the dogman. Okay.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so I find it interesting. And what I want to suggest is this. When you start looking back in history, these ones are only recorded so far back, not as far back as the other species. And it makes me wonder, is this something that's been introduced into the Sasquatch population?
Yeah.
Just discredit them, to cause panic? I don't know. To destroy them?
To destroy them.
And could it be some sort of genetic deal because they're doing some inbreeding? Possibly, but I don't think so. This is something different. And these things are something different. Their behavior is so aggressive, and they're often reported as being cannibals, right? Isn't that, I think that's Duke Sullivan, I'm pretty sure, that calls them the face eaters also, and describes his encounter. And everybody I've heard talk about those things is terrifying. And it does something to you to encounter one of those, no doubt. And I think maybe the cross between them and the dog man is this particular one is something different, this type 3 of each species. So anyway, that's all I want to really say about that. But I think it's just worthy of noting this and kind of keeping it in mind.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because I used to lump Dogman with Sasquatch. I didn't know any better. And after I started doing the remote viewing targets of Dogman, I was seeing that they're a totally different breed. Okay, they're different species all by themselves. And so, but the Gugwe and the Genusqua, though, they're very violent, and they will actually rip people's heads off and stuff like that is what I'm told. So, there's also the idea of the underground bases that I keep coming up with and keep kind of stumbling upon. And they're doing experiments, and a lot of the dogmen are coming from these underground facilities, being let loose or escaping. It depends. Okay. But they're coming there. It's like some of them are being made down there.
Hellhounds is what it sounds like to me, for lack of a better word. And, the fact that one of those dogmen is described as looks so much like the American werewolf in London, I think is terrifying. That was one of the worst werewolves, I think. And, not to mention when I was a kid, man, that guy was the Dr. Pepper guy. He was a doctor, doctor. And all of a sudden he wolfed out hard. He messed up Michael Jackson, messed up Thriller.
He wolfed out.
Whatever.
Oh my gosh, he wolfed out.
I mean, but that's interesting because when you look back historically, there are reports of werewolves go further back in history than those of these dogman creatures, and how they're separate, and that the dogman is often reported as not being a human at one point. So it's kind of gets us into like a werewolf too, which is different than a dogman and a Gugwe, okay, because they are actually humans that started off as humans basically. So we've got this is the famous the Howling movie from 1981, I believe. So we've got that to worry about in those woods too. Okay. Yeah, which it's pretty terrifying. I've never come across a dogman before. I like to think that the only Sasquatch that my team and I have encountered are the nice ones. Okay, like the patty types. Not to say the guys haven't been chased out of the woods before, and we've all been yelled at some point or screamed at or something. So, but that was non-violent. Okay. In the past, I was told by a gentleman named Gail, the elder for the Sioux, that Lakota, that I used to know, did sweats with sometimes. He passed, but he had told me this, and also Dr. Jerry Shaw, the college I went to. They had mentioned that the dogmen and Sasquatch avoid each other, and there's some areas where the Sasquatch will warn tribal people about the dogman being in the area. And then that takes us back also to not just Anubis, but also to was it St. Christopher?
St. Christopher was a dog man. Yeah.
They said he was from a pack of dog. He was from a tribe of dog-headed priests, right?
That's right. I mean, well, in ancient Egypt, most of the gods were, chimeras, half dog, half human, half, eagle, hawk, whatever, lion.
Yeah, and for I don't know, making it broader, okay? Don't anybody get mad at me, but we've got not just those 4 types of Sasquatch. You've also got these other things that kind of blend in, like you've got the mountain giants. That's a different category of 2 different types of them also. And they're always described as being cannibals straight up, all kinds of them. Even the redheaded giants. They were saying that there was the Piru were saying that they're floating down the river, just devastating tribes, eating people up. So, and everywhere you start dealing with the giants, they're always described as cannibals of each kind, whether it's the ones with the tusk or the redhead giants or the toe. All of them are described that way, and how actually Sasquatch avoid them. I've heard that quite a bit too, but how they're much more rare, and then you can throw other things in there like the devil monkeys. The devil monkeys, I think, is fascinating. That looks more like a mandrill or a baboon. Yeah, there you go. Well, you're on it. Right on.
Listen, Barry, I'm prepared tonight. I pulled up everything. I've got all the pictures here.
Something I want to throw in about the devil monkeys that I find interesting, as well as some of the reports about the dogmen as well, is that, and even Sasquatch in some occasions, that they're impervious to bullets.
Wow.
Heard a couple of very interesting Sasquatch or dogman experiences, supposedly military connected, how they needed one of those Labratory 44. I don't know much about guns. Sorry, I'm not a gun guy, but the ones, I think the metal piercing rounds, the really long bullets, that those took dogmen out.
I mean, I've heard that like Bushmasters can take them out and things like that, like a 350.
What's a Bushmaster?
Yeah, there's like rifles and stuff. There are guns that can take these things out, and blades, knives, and things like that. So they're not all bulletproof. Maybe it's just a matter of where you shoot them. And I don't know. I've never killed one, so I can't say for sure. But that's just what I've heard.
Or are they manifested beings?
Some of them could be.
Some of them, like type 2 Sasquatch wouldn't be a manifested being. And you did one of your remote targets. You identified one of those creatures as being more like a type 2, more of a large chimpanzee type of Sasquatch. Yeah, those are always reported to not have paranormal abilities. So that takes it sort of just the Jane Goodall thing, right?
more primate like, but there's such a wide range of all of these beings. Okay, so you can't label them all one thing because they're all so different. Some of them are super telepathic, some of them aren't. Some of them are just out there looking for food constantly, while other ones are, maybe they're working with the ETs and stuff. I don't know. There's a variety though.
Yeah, fascinating. It's the first time we've ever done one of these. I've ever done one of these shows or interviews, and I can see the comments now over here.
Yeah,
I'm trying to be distracted by looking at it because there's a lot of genius people in here saying a lot of very intelligent stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, So, where were we on that?
Well, we're talking about the mutant Sasquatch, of course, and just to kind of go back for just a couple of seconds on the zombie bear, that we've kind of made a connection to the Dewey Lake monster. Okay, this right here. So when I was doing my remote viewing target on this, CERN came up of all things. Okay, CERN. Okay, CERN always everything circles back around to CERN. It seems like a lot of the things that I look into, and I was looking into the area because there was something to do with the area, and where these people were killed was in Cobb County, Tennessee, right there. Okay, well, I looked into it, and there's a place called Oak Ridge, Tennessee, and it's about 2 counties over. Okay, and they have a laboratory there where they work hand in hand with CERN out of Switzerland. Okay, and they actually have a special project that they work on called ALICE, and it's a large ion collider experiment. ALICE. Now, think about that name for a second. ALICE, down the rabbit hole, right?
Brady Bunch.
Yeah, Alice. No, not that Alice. I'm thinking White Rabbit down the rabbit hole. But they say there's a hadron collider there in Oak Ridge. Okay, and so much like the one at CERN. So I was picking up that had something to do with some of these creatures.
You know, I'll be honest. I have problems with so much that's said about CERN because for this reason, okay, but this particular part I give leeway and I think is interesting. I'll tell you why. But my problem with CERN is this, okay? That was by no means the first, what used to be called cyclotrons, these hadron colliders. They were called cyclotrons. And it was one called the cosmotron that was activated in the 60s. Those have been around a long time. And what brought CERN to the forefront was when that cat, John Teeter, had said on that website, he wasn't on Art Bell at first. He got on Art Bell, but he was on a website. I'd seen it. And he said that he was a time traveler from the year 2030 something.
Yes.
And that he was in this, he even showed his Corvette and this machine in it. It's quite interesting, actually. And he even showed a patent for it. All right. Anyway, a future patent. Anyway, he had said that CERN would involuntarily discover time travel. Wow. And that's what put them on the map, was that guy saying that. But really? So sometimes I get, and that, there's so many, there's Fermilab, there's a lot of these hadron colliders all over the planet, like you're discovering. But one thing I will say, outside of them looking for the Higgs boson particle, they were not, actually disclosing some of these exotic particles they were discovering that exist just a half a millisecond. Wow. They're not talking about. And there's all sorts of exotic particles. And what is mentioned, I believe, with that one you're talking about, is some type of exotic particle they thought formed with the Big Bang, the creation of the universe. So that's what particle it is. I can't tell you. I'm not a physicist, okay? But nonetheless, looking at stuff like that, when you're looking at that type of science, that takes it to a whole new level. So I won't disqualify a lot of the things that are being said now or that you're saying or anybody. That's what the real science is.
Yeah, it detects a quark gluon plasma, a state of matter thought to have formed just after the Big Bang. Okay.
There it is. Yes.
And also, okay, so the Oak Ridge Laboratory, this is where they worked on the Philadelphia experiment, or not is it the Philadelphia experiment? The Manhattan Project, excuse me, the Manhattan Project. I'm sorry, I'm gonna get it right. And so, and this is where they said that they created I believe it's the atomic bomb that they dropped during World War II. Okay. And so this is a place where they work with highly toxic chemicals and things like that, and radiation and all that stuff. Top secret programs. Okay. Top secret programs at Oak Ridge. And so we don't know what all's going on down there, but I mean, it could have something to do with some of these cryptids. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm going to say.
I think it'd be a worthy target for you and good old Tanya, fan of Tanya.
Yeah, Tanya's in the chat tonight. Tanya's watching.
Greetings,
hey, Tanya.
Greetings. I think you both should maybe remote view the facilities these places are.
Oh, Barry, I'm going to get in trouble for that.
If nothing else, even the one in Puerto Rico that John Vivinco said the Chupacabra came from. You know?
Well, you know what? I'll consider it. However, I don't want to get another knock at my door. Okay, so I got to be careful.
That's true with it.
Yeah, we got to watch out for that. But anyways, I'm going to stick to cryptids for a while. Okay, we're going to stick with cryptids.
That is good. Taking you right back there, isn't it?
Yes. I'm having anxiety attacks right now. Okay, so all right, whew, getting hot. Okay, yes, we're gonna stick to cryptids.
What is this? I'm just gonna hit it anyway on the head.
Yes,
so we can do not just Big Brother that's creating these things too.
Yeah.
What about the prime intelligence that's doing this? The prime intelligence that is sending, like, the black-eyed children, that's sending the Mothman. The prime intelligence is doing that. Even I know I know they told you directly from God, but what is the intelligence before that? Just like the prime intelligence that actually sends the Greys here and sends the reptilians here. That's never really addressed, I think. And what about that prime intelligence is already creating these type of cryptids and putting them on Earth as a laboratory, and then humanity's just carrying where that left off? Food for thought is all I'm suggesting, all right?
Right. It's something to think about. You know, we could dig into it a little more with remote viewing, but you know, it's we're just touching on all these subjects because we're trying to cover everything with all these cryptids, and we've got plenty of them. So, but it's a very interesting question. Now, I mean, we've even when you talk about Earth being a lab, I mean, we have everything. Of course, I have pictures tonight of all the different cryptids that I've actually remote viewed, but we talk about pretty often, and that includes we have, hold on, I got to scroll down because I have a bunch of pictures tonight. So we've got the Dogman. Okay, we got the Dogman. We talked about that. The Frogman, the Loveland Frogman. Okay, this was such a weird thing that I looked into. Okay,
Yeah.
so for anyone who's watching tonight who's never heard of the Loveland Frogman, this is based out of Ohio. The first sighting was around 1959, I believe. And there was a traveling salesman that was driving down the road, and he passed by 3 humanoid bipedal frogmen on the side of the road. And these sightings have been going on in this area for quite a while. But yeah, up until I believe it was up until kind of recently, there were some people claiming to have seen some of these frogmen.
I have heard that they're supposedly an extraterrestrial species, and that they're connected to some of the mer people and species that have come here. You know, even going back to what everybody's familiar with is the doggone, and the doggone really said about the Nomo. What they said about the Nomo when the ship came down and immediately went down into the water, and that they emerged later. You know what I mean? So that is, you know, these aquatic species that I think are not acknowledged enough. I remember you were doing one of your shows, you were messing around with, I think, what is called the aquatic ape theory, which is how much humans evolve from water in that way. And, you know, I know there was a show on the Animal Planet that was about mermaids that completely was a farce, and it kind of messed up some ideas, but that can't let us get away from what true possible mer creatures, and, you know, and odd cryptids I'll throw out there. Organism 46B that was supposedly in Lake Vostok, I think it is. And that's the team that went down, and the divers started, these odd divers were coming way deep, luring them down. And this organism 47B was some type of a squid, octopus type of being that came up looking like a diver. It morphed itself to look like diving. They started attacking the team and stuff. And it sounded it sounds like a sentinel. Yeah, it's an organism 46B. I did a long video on it, one of my first Patreon ones. Maybe I'll release it or something, or link it to you.
Yeah, I would like to see that.
Yeah, just interesting. Just know those things that comes up, you know, that interesting. Not just that, but the divers they were describing alone that were luring them deeper before they got attacked. That's a fascinating story. It's been around.
Kind of like sirens. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
Follow me,
or the Kraken. You know, the Kraken was a being that's supposed to bring ships down. It's supposed to be a type of squid, I think, wasn't it? Giant squid.
I think so. Something like that. Yeah, the Kraken. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I've seen videos that are kind of recent of alleged mermaids, you know, fishermen pulling mermaids off of boats and stuff. And I'm not sure what to think of that. I'm not sure. I want to believe that they're real, but I don't know.
It's interesting when we started going back. I had heard, it's a place it's in Washington there. It's this area. Oh, what's the name of that lake? Anyway, it's where they do this fishing, and there's like a cannery there. But in the back, there are all these nets, and the nets have these holes in them, okay? These huge holes. And some of the fishermen were saying they're from sea serpents. They go in there and take the salmon that they're collecting. Gosh, I've done a video on that, and I'll have to pull it up. And I think I even released it. But it's very interesting when you start looking at stuff like that. It's something that's known to the people that live there. And when everyone looks at the holes in there, they're like, what in the world is doing that? And they'll tell you, it's these sea serpents. But what are they that's chewing through those metal? It's fascinating. Little stuff like that. I've got a video I did trying to put the exact reference. There's a tribe, the Trinault tribe, I think talks about it also. So food for thought.
That's interesting. You're gonna definitely have to post that one. Yeah. Yeah, well, we also had the Lizard Man. You know, I did a show on the Lizard Man of Scape or Swamp, and I know this is from a movie. This is like Marvel or something, but it looked very similar to what I was seeing when I remote viewed the Lizard Man of Scape or Swamp, and that's in South Carolina. Now, I did pick up that it was a reptilian, okay, an alien species actually, and people had thought that maybe that's what it was. It was. It was totally a reptilian. And it did go after that young kid, the 16-year-old gentleman that was changing his tire that night. Thank goodness he had gotten his tire changed right before it got up to him. Yeah. But yeah, we've got all sorts of weird stuff lurking around. And I think, well, this is another kind of rendition of a lizard man, but also wasn't there like I've seen pictures and read articles about what humans would look like if they had evolved from dinosaurs or something, and this kind of looks like that.
Yeah, there's a couple of them, like the Hadrosaurus. What's the other one? There's several of them that have a brain capacity that, had they not been eradicated, they would be probably the dominant species. And I think they even show what the Hadrosaurus would look like if it evolved. It's similar to that. You know, and you hear things when you look at really the extraterrestrial phenomenon. And I myself can't comment. I've had contact most of my life, but I never saw any reptilians or grays. So I can't speak on that. Okay. And the fact I didn't encounter a 9-foot bipedal crocodile in a craft, I have no problem with that. Anyway.
Yeah.
But hearing about the ones that were from Draco and the ones that are already here, the Saurians, they're already existing here, like these ones that you have here, these Hadrosaurus and other beings that would evolve. You know, it's fascinating when looking at that. But when really looking at that, you know, I did some work with Ray Hernandez. Anyone that's familiar with him from CCRI, used to be called the Edgar Mitchell Foundation for Research Encounters, and they've done so much good hard work in this area. And, you know, they did one of this survey. They put out a 4 or 5 phase survey that was very intense. I myself only took the first one, and I was like, man, it's too much. Yeah. You know, so if you're going to lie, it weeds out the people that are going to lie much better. But one of the questions that the survey I had taken was about interactions with reptilians. I had to skip that one. I've not encountered them.
Really?
But of the people that did, like a couple of 1,000 people or so, it's not what you would think. I would think it would be all negative encounters with them. And it wasn't. It was like a lot of positive and a whole lot of neutral, due to the fact that people explained that they were so frightened by their appearance that it made the encounter weird, but they were never harmed by them. Yeah. And it just wasn't what I all expected to see when dealing with what the media says about them. The figurines, we see them historically. So how much of what we hear is not correct at all? I myself can say concerning the contact experience, the crap I hear in the media and in a lot of these circles, it's not true. It's not nothing like real contact phenomenon at all. It's these great stories you hear some of these people telling. Now, when I tell my story, it sounds congruent, but it's because it took me a lifetime to assemble it. Because when the experiences happen, they're fragmented. Even if you're conscious and aware and awake and physically, it's a vibrational difference that makes it harder to retain the memory after the event horizon itself. And I think it happened with a lot of these cryptids, and maybe even like the cube that your team went into. You know what I mean? Never mind, I'll shut up.
Yeah. Well, we consider that the cube, like we consider that kind of a portal. Okay. We don't know where it went, or we really don't know what was on the other side. We had 2 members guided into it. They didn't know they were going into it, but they got in it and the entire environment changed. So they walked backwards out. And, you know, we're still researching that. So I'm not volunteering to go in one of those. Okay. Ever. but hey, I'll be there to try to pull them out with a rope or something. You know what I'm saying?
You know, that's what I was told by, you know, several people, starting with Tom Powell. If you ever go deep in the forest, which I will not,
well, you should. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a lot of fun.
You know, I appreciate you all to do it because I don't have to. But I'm just kidding. But they never go into something that's shimmering. You know what I mean? You see these shimmery lights, don't step into them. That's part of the missing 411 people. You know, so it's very fascinating, you know.
Yeah. Well, okay. So going back to talking or mentioning uh, things that, like we were talking about on Friday night with Mothman, for instance, I picked up that on two different targets that it was a messenger from God. Okay. And it was something that was kind of sent here to warn humanity about impending danger. Okay. And so that's what the Mothman was here for. Now, can you say that's like an angel? I mean, it didn't look like it because every people imagine like an angel or a messenger from God looking like something that's beautiful, like Archangel Michael with the wings and the sword, something very angelic. But maybe perhaps angels don't look like what we imagine, like what the Bible tells us and what the church has on the windows and things like that. It's something different. How do you feel about that, Barry?
You mean as far as the
Yeah, about how we perceive things that like messengers from God and things like that is something that's just beautiful and angelic. Whereas it may be something that looks like the Mothman that people are terrified of.
I was trying not to repeat everything I said Friday. I was trying to
Oh
think of
no,
something more swift
we're
than
on
what
a
I said
different show
Friday, but
tonight.
I was sound like a robot here, a clone.
It's okay. We're on
For,
Spaced Out Radio tonight.
for me, I kind of correlated this with what I believe and what I picked up about the black-eyed children. And that the black-eyed children that were showing up in people's doorsteps and asking to get in and showing up in people's cars, interacting with people, very odd phenomenon, all right? But the way they made people feel this intense fear, this intense feeling, and not just that, the sickness people that said they got too close to them for too long or touched one experienced afterwards. Okay, to me, that sounded a lot like radiation poisoning. And also, I believe that as a warning system, these are similar to what you're saying the Mothman is. I think they came from an alternate timeline, and it's a manifestation that's a warning system. Mm-hmm. And in that way, I kind of correlated that and these black-eyed children with those cards that came out when you and I were younger called the garbage kids. Yeah, and they were supposed to be an answer to the Cabbage Patch dolls. But it caused a huge corruption or commotion because the garbage pail kids were supposed to be survivors of nuclear fallout.
Yeah, I had no idea until you told me that.
Yeah, and I think that's what actually these black-eyed children are representing. And I said years and years ago in the video I did I said it, that I don't think that phenomenon was going to persist and people were going to keep encountering them. I think it was just part of a warning system to stop, to deter us from nuclear holocaust. Okay, and that's always been a problem here. Nuclear destruction and nuclear war has always been a problem, and a timeline I believe several dark forces have always been trying to get us to. And right now we're in these time edits and these Mandela effects always occurred during high times of high solar activity. Check it out. Always during high solar activity. We're in a time like that right now. So we have to be careful. We have to be consciously aware of our thoughts and try to promote love. Definitely.
Positivity.
Definitely.
Laughing, happiness. But, today is a very solemn day because in our history, in 2001, this is the anniversary of 9/11. And, my heart goes out to everyone we were all affected by that. But to the family of the people who lost their lives that day, that was a huge tragedy. Now, going off of the 9/11 events that happened around that date, there was something spotted around the Twin Towers that some people said could have been something like a Mothman before the towers went down. Have you heard that, Barry?
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's pictures. I mean, anybody get online and look up Petrosaurus or pterodactyl around 9/11, around the Twin Towers. You'll see this thing. And they tried to explain it later as it was a radio controlled model. I don't think so. Okay. But then again, during 9/11, it was high solar activity. And something else, we talk about these time edits. Something weird was happening. How many people remember that Manhattan was in the middle of a hurricane called Hurricane Aaron? And for several days surrounding 9/11, there was no air traffic because of this hurricane. And people said, no, there wasn't. Yeah, look it up. Look it up on NOAA, Hurricane Aaron. It was right there when 9/11 happened. But yet that day was crystal clear that day. Remember?
Yeah, I think so.
And the fact that most people can't remember Hurricane Aaron shows you there's some sort of that's this Mandela effect. People, because really a time edit is what it is. But anyway, I'll shut up. We're not supposed to be talking about time, warping of time. We're supposed to be talking about gugwies.
Well, in a way, it's all connected somehow, Barry. You and I always bring it back around, and we connect it all.
To finish answering your question in a non-Gemini type of way, I just answered it.
You and I are both Geminis.
I think that. I think. Don't tell anybody. Chucky was a Gemini.
We get along pretty well.
Chucky was a Gemini. Oh yeah,
Chucky.
The little doll from the movies. He had to be a Gemini. He's your friend in the end, and then there's the other side of him. Anyway, but answering your question and wrapping that part of it up, I believe that when dealing with messengers from spirit, they can come in all different types. Okay. And if we're dealing with demonic type of beings down here that are at war, the light and the dark, who's to say that the light sits these beings that are these carpenters in sandals or these angels with robes on? Who says that they're not the same type of monster that they're here to fight? They might be something similar. We don't know, at least to our appearance anyway. So we have to stay open for stuff like that and realize during the context what happens with these messengers. What vibration do we get? What feelings do we get? What harm and negative death and blood do they bring about? The demon always used the blood for manifestation. Yeah. So food for thought, okay?
Yeah, that's actually something that I was having a conversation with someone earlier today about, was when I'm remote viewing the dogman phenomenon and the different dogmen across the country here, I have picked up repeatedly that they are going after they're going after the blood. And there's I just feel like there's a connection there with when they attack people, yes, they're attacking to kill them, but a lot of these cryptids that are violent, they're going after particular let's just say they're going after blood. That's all I'm going to say without getting myself in trouble here. But yeah, and is that because they're using it for a purpose to manifest something? I mean, I don't know. Or are they just thirsty and hungry? I don't know. It could be either, I guess. But it's a recurring theme with these cryptids. So I don't know.
Not good.
It's not good.
Not
it's
good
really not good at all. And so, and to kind of bring it back full circle, we are having a lot of an uptick in packs of dogs attacking people. I have a friend over in Scotland who sent me a case to look into, and I apologize, I have not looked into that yet, Deb, but I'm going to. Okay. And but there was a lady who had gotten, I believe she had a flat tire on her car, and she called like AAA or something similar. And when they got to her car to help her change her tire or whatever was wrong with her car, she was gone. And they sent out a search team. And I believe they found her, I think they said about a mile down the road, and she had been eaten on. Okay. And she was an older lady. And they said she probably wouldn't have walked that far and left her purse and her keys and everything there at that car. So that's something I was planning on looking into for a friend of mine.
Question: in your research, how often have you come across dogmen attacking people? Is it a lot? Or?
Well, only when I've been asked to remote view like the beasts of LBL, and in that particular case, I was just remote viewing not only the beasts of LBL, but I was remote viewing the alleged attack on the family of 4 there from the 1980s, and when I did several different targets from that place. And when I was remote viewing the one attack with that family, I came across many, many attacks there at that area. So it happens a lot in particular places. I don't get these attacks of dogmen all the time. I did also do a target at Brown Springs, Oklahoma, of a double homicide there. And that was interesting because I did pick up on satanic ritual stuff going on there. And it's interesting because I got that it was humans, but now knowing what I know that I've been told that humans can turn into werewolves, and the extent of the injuries on those two people thought they were attacked by a gugway or a dog man. And I didn't pick up on a gugway or a dog man. I picked up on humans attacking them. But it was also connected with Satanists that were doing a ritual there. So could it have been a werewolf? Yeah, could have been. So I don't know. We live in a very strange universe right now.
There's no doubt, when dealing with what people don't want to talk about, that one aspect of these Sasquatch, from my experience, have to be some type of shapeshifters. Yeah. I had experience that stopped my world. And there's no doubt that whatever I dealt with was some type of a shapeshifter. And if you're dealing with that, and where actually these came from, for actually certain warriors learned how to do shapeshifting through perception and the dream body, how that actually works, and things we hear now about skinwalkers and things, they're all connected. Yes. And that takes it to another level. I myself had experience one night, something that mirrored something that Rob said on your show. He talked about encountering some dogs that were hairless dogs. I encountered the dog one night that was very late, about 3:00 a.m., the bewitching hour. That was a dog that was, it looked like a hairless, one of those hairless Mexican dogs, kind of, but different, much bigger, the size of a German or a Doberman, a little bit, almost a Great Dane. It was very big. And this dog was healthy, very muscular, wasn't suffering from mange. Okay. And glowing eyes, the way that light was hitting it anyway. Can't say it was self-illuminated, but I'll tell you, that's another experience of something that if it wasn't some type of either a shapeshifter or something that is crossed over, it was very odd. You know what I mean? So just people, I think, have these encounters, especially at night, much more than they think, with these beings that are either humans that can do it, or these manifested beings that are coming through the portals for temporarily, or manifest around the energy fields, the morphogenic fields of people they use to manifest energy. They like that's very important. And I think that's also underestimated. We just say, oh, it's from another dimension. Does that mean when it's not here, it's unmanifested?
Yeah, I guess.
Unmanifested awareness?
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like we get left with more questions than answers, Barry, with a lot of this stuff. So, yeah. I don't know. Well, I think that, we have about 5 minutes left. So is there anything else you want to touch on tonight about the Earth being a laboratory? I think we've hit on a whole lot of cryptids tonight.
Wow, you've got some really important people in that chat. I see
we have some great.
Duke is there now. That's cool.
We right do. Duke. Hello, Duke. Yeah, he's in here. World Bigfoot Radio.
He's the one to talk about the ugly. I can tell you that's another species I'm glad I've not encountered. Goodness, I mean, there's so many of these hostile species out there, whether it be extraterrestrial or Bigfoot related. Oh, it's very dangerous. Very dangerous.
Yeah. I don't want to run into one of those ever in the woods. Now, also, we've got another aspect of these cryptids that some of them we're talking about how maybe some of the species are disappearing, and, because the gugways and the dogmen are taking out the good Bigfoot, things like that. But we've also got the aspect of perhaps Bigfoot, Sasquatch, has been mating with humans too. I don't know where this all fits in, but I was thinking about Xana. I believe that was her name. She was considered kind of a Sasquatch type of a female, and she had children with a human male. Okay. And so we've got that going on too. We've got humans and cryptids procreating. Okay.
I've heard that, and I know in Australia there's a lot of talk of Yowies doing that, and the Yowie, my understanding, is quite similar to a North American Type 1 Sasquatch. But this takes us into something else. I've heard things too, that experiences people describing seeing Bigfoot with babies that look like grays. Where does this all begin and end? And that the children look like they're half Bigfoot, half gray or something. I mean, I've heard some of that on Dixie Cryptid, I believe.
Yeah.
I don't know where it all begins and ends. I think it's very odd. Just like 911, the water deaths, when they do those autopsies, those people have like GHB in their body, like 25 times the amount you could get at a club.
Yeah.
Where in the wilderness do you suddenly get abducted and get that much GHB put in your body to where you're put in the water? They drowned.
Yeah, that's something that we should do a show on sometime. We should do some remote viewing on that, Barry. I think that would be something really interesting to look into. We're gonna find out some of these. We're gonna solve some mysteries. Okay, we're trying to now. Jenny Whitebeard. I think that people can accidentally manifest monsters. To be honest, the mind is a powerful thing. Okay, and if you can think it, it can manifest.
They use the psychogenic energy from negative thoughts to manifest into this reality. Definitely.
Yeah. That's why we have to keep it positive. Don't live in fear. Maybe don't watch so many shows that have, murder mysteries and true crime and all that kind of stuff. It's okay to watch it a little bit, but just don't get, don't go down the rabbit hole too much on that really dark stuff, because you don't want to manifest that into your life. Well, Barry, where can people find you? You have an amazing YouTube channel. Let's see if I can pull up the banner here. It's just Barry Littleton on YouTube, right?
Yeah. Certainly, I don't have any cool handles or anything, but just Barry Littleton on YouTube. I do a lot of work there, and I'm being encouraged by my people on Patreon to put more on YouTube. So I'm trying to keep it going there. Also, I'm on Facebook. Try to communicate a little bit there. My website is barrylittleton.com, but I don't get on there very much. It needs construction still, but it has links on there to my other stuff.
Yeah.
So, YouTube is probably a big one, and Patreon.
Yeah, and you're on Instagram too. So.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that one.
Yes. Well, Barry, this hour flew by, and so thank you so much for being here tonight. I think we covered a lot of bases tonight. I think we did awesome. So thank you for being my guest again tonight.
Thank you for having me, and thank you to your audience for being so kind to me and for all the great comments. It's really cool. So thank you both very much. I really appreciate it.
Of course, Barry. Of course. Well, listen, we're going to have you back on soon. Okay. So thank you for being here. Okay. All right, Barry. Well, you're a wealth of knowledge, and I really appreciate you. Okay. We'll see you soon.
Thank you. I appreciate you too. Thank you.
Okay. Bye, Barry. Okay, y'all. That was awesome. I hope y'all enjoyed that as much as I did. Don't forget, right after the show, you can join the After Hours crew. They're going to take you on an incredible journey for the next 3 hours. Next time on Off the Trails, my guest is paranormal researcher Josh Turner of the Paranormal Roundtable. We'll be talking about Dogman and other cryptids, and I can't wait to see y'all there. But for now, I'm the Cryptid Huntress, Jessica Jones, and I'm headed off the trail tonight, and I will see you guys next week. Y'all have a great week. Bye.